high resolution. There we go. Okay, well, folks, thank you for joining us. My name is Chris, and I have my co-presenter and my wife, Tammy.
Hey, everybody.
We are Crown Diamonds with Max International, and the training this evening is really important. By the way, if you're on Facebook Live, we also want to welcome you. Thank you for joining in. Feel free to post your comment. If you want to join us live, you're also welcome to go on activeteamwebinar.com. It will take you right to this Zoom webinar. Otherwise, Facebook Live is actually perfect, and we love your comments. It's very helpful. It gives us some insights to give us some direction on if we're doing well, things we can improve upon. Generally, it's always been very, very positive. We want to thank you for that. Now, what was I saying? In reference to handling objections, it's kind of like a nucleus. It's a point where most people will, if it's handled correctly, it doesn't matter what situation you face. You can always find a way to move forward. And our goal this evening is to give you some guidelines. And we'll give you some small examples. But understand that an objection, you don't need to be experienced. You don't need to be super educated. At the end of the day, it's called common sense. Human common sense. And often, the more comfortable you become with the opportunity, with the product, and we'll cover that in a minute here. I just want to give you a summary so you have a context here. The more impactful you will be handling objection. And that's what we want to talk about.
And I think a lot of the time, people will get through the process. And I know from experience, because remember, we had our very first day in network marketing, just like everybody else, where we were challenged at the beginning. But over time, we learned how to handle these objections better by going to trainings, by doing a lot of third-party calls. Chris and I did a lot of third-party calls with our sponsors over the years so we could write down some key things that we can learn what they were saying to get people to move forward, as Chris shared. Yeah. I think a lot of the time people they'll stay back in fear and only go through the first couple steps of the prospecting. Inviting is a simple thing because all you're doing is giving them a video or sending them a link. That's the easy process. And then bang, a lot of people will stop there simply because of that fear of what are people going to say, those objections that are going to get thrown out on you. And so we're going to share some of this practical stuff with you this evening, but moving forward in the next sessions, we'd like to do some interactive stuff with some of you leaders that want to do it with us.
Yeah. And by the way, Bill, I took your advice. I took the microphone off the table, and we have this little mic here. Oh, I don't want to block Tammy, though. There we go. So that way, that should minimize the... Oh, sorry, my love. There we go. We're just adjusting here with these new tools. There we go. I think that should be okay. To move to the left a little bit. I just want to make sure the microphone, and I just want to make sure that the sound is clear and not echoey. Give me a thumbs up if it's not echoey. I know it was confirmed earlier. Okay, perfect, excellent. Thank you. Okay, so let's get started. What's really important here is the aspect of handling the objections, and at the end of the day, is you're seeking clarity. When Tammy and I speak to a prospect, or that we do a third-party credibility call, whatever the situation that we are, to help someone see the big picture, is I'm seeking clarity. I'm trying to understand where they are, and also to understand their beliefs in reference to the industry, in reference to the product, right? Because we know that often there is some residual of their experiences that comes along with looking at an opportunity like this. And one thing that's also very important that I found is sound well informed. I'm not saying that you have to sound like a doctor or a professional or a technical person at all. But it's important that whatever you cover, that there is no hesitation every time you're elaborating on, let's say, the products and the benefits of the products and the compensation plan. If you're not comfortable with that, because you're never the one that talks about it. Well, again, this is your homework. These are the things that you have to be conscious and aware of. And if you sound well informed, I'm telling you, it doesn't matter how educated a person is compared to your education, they will get the information and it'll be well received. Okay, and I mentioned earlier limited belief, and we'll touch on that. And that's a very, very important aspect. And often we spend a lot of time dealing with the limiting beliefs and how do we overcome that. And of course, also the assumption, right? The assumption that people have in reference to this industry or the product, right? Kind of like, I don't believe in these things and this and that. And they're making assumption that they know more just because they had experience, good or bad, right? And so this is kind of envelopes the handling of objections.
I just wanted to go back to the sound well informed, Chris, because when you're new, you're not going to know a lot. And the best thing is to be honest. And if you don't know the question that people are asking, that's why we're always saying, bring in that third party at the beginning when you're new and you're, after through the follow-up process, bring somebody in that can handle some of these objections. Because it's happened to me before where, they ask me some really deep questions on the product and I just don't have the answer. And I say, you know what, that is a really great question. As a matter of fact, nobody's ever asked me this question before. I don't have the answer, but I will get it for you. I'll get back to you today for the answer. I'll talk to one of my business partners who's a naturopath. I'll talk to one of my business partner who is whatever, and I'm going to get back to them with the answer. So I think people really appreciate that. So don't be afraid to say, I don't know. It's better to say that than to say something that's not real.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
I agree.
Okay, so Chris, so don't walk away, seek to understand their concern. Always sit back and understand where they're at. Ask questions. That's the best thing. Ask questions to know what objection they might have. Your duty is to educate and to build a bridge so that you can guide them on their decisions to move them forward. Okay, no matter what it is. Only learning experiences. This is what you need to understand. Because often you're going to do a call, you're going to get some objections, you're going to think it's a really bad call. No, it's not a bad call. You learn in the process, okay? This is how we all evolve, is to learn from the experience. You'll pick up more knowledge, and then you're going to get further in moving people further in this business. All right, so expect questions and objections. Always expect that, okay? And don't in your head start thinking of all these things that they might say, because I've done that in the past. Anybody can relate to that? I know some of you can relate to that. I'm not the only one. So, what's important is just do the call. Just connect with people and find out where they're at in their thought process. Because often whatever you think never comes out in a conversation.
And this is really important. Often we talked about, the server at the restaurant serving coffee in the morning. And I know it sounds repetitive, but it's you need to understand, because we do this. I do that myself too sometimes, right? I'm talking to a cold prospect, does not know me from Adam. They have no idea of our results. For them, we're just some maybe scam, right? So, people immediately, they will think the worst. And so the fact is, you see, I just did it. I make an assumption of what they're thinking. It's called being human. And what we're saying to you is, don't get caught up to all of that. At the end of the day, you are the messenger. That they are interested or not, it's your job is to share. And if you don't have all the requirements, the knowledge to sound well informed, that's when you get the third party. We've got to be doing some calls on the third party credibility and follow-ups, because I think it's important we revisit that. Because every time we evolve, we discover new things, and especially today with the new times, approaches sometimes may vary a little bit, but remember, constants are constant. It doesn't matter what country you're in. It doesn't matter what language you speak. At the end of the day, it's all human common sense. Is it good for me? Am I going to make money? Am I going to benefit? Am I going to lose my money? Right? So there's a lot of things that people, and all you want to do is give them direction and send it in a way that they can make an assessment that makes sense. And to be able to do this successfully, there are the 4 core beliefs. The lack of belief is a powerful universal objection. And I'm telling you that often people are so bogged down with the science and to prove that the product works and to prove that network marketing works. I mean, it's kind of what we do. But the fact is, if the person has lack of belief in the industry or lack of belief in the company, we're talking about the products, the pay plan, whatever else that's going on, right? They're going to brainwash you. I remember these things I heard. Today, I'm realizing that this industry has helped me evolve as a person. It made me a better father, a better husband, a better son. I'm telling you, it's amazing how much I have learned in the industry that I would never have learned going with my MBA, educated, whatever, right? So this industry is not really well understood unless you go through it and you persist in learning and not limiting your own belief based on the general public's limited belief. So the fact here is one of the issue again is the company and the products and comp plan. The other also is lack of belief on the upline, right? The upline sponsor. Oh my God, what if he's overselling my prospect? And what if my prospect feels sold? And all these things that are going on, right? And these are all the situation that creates limiting beliefs that will prevent you from going forward. Above all, belief in themselves. This is the biggest one, is the lack of belief in themselves. That's why we talk often about personal growth. You wouldn't believe how expensive today it is to take any kind of courses on personal growth in any aspect. It's extremely expensive. But once you acquire the knowledge for you to recognize where you are and where you can be, and now you're starting to following the steps to get to where you could be, your income possibilities are limitless. And I'm not exaggerating one little bit. So belief is key for any decision and achievement. And that's very important. And all that plays a very important role in handling objections.
And it takes time to build beliefs. So don't think it's going to happen overnight. These sessions on Monday night, the sessions that are going on around the world, there's so many groups out there doing so many great trainings in Max. It doesn't matter what country they're in. It doesn't matter. Get on and learn how to build this business from people who have went there before you, that have walked the talk and have hit some significant levels. Learn how they're handling all of this. And you'll see that you go out, you do a little bit of action, and you'll notice that you'll get a little bit of results. And then you start building your belief on that. So you just got to take a step forward, build some belief around that, take another step forward. And it's a process. You have to understand that. So you have to move forward. If you want to succeed in our business, you need to move forward continuously. All right?
And by the way, I just want to recognize the folks from West Africa. We have Abraham here from Guinea. Thank you for joining in. We have Kofi, I believe, from Ghana. Thank you for joining in. And we have
Williams there, Webmaster.
Who's Webmaster? Yeah, here's Webmaster right there from. It's very late. We're talking midnight and 1 o'clock in the morning from Nigeria. I believe that we have some people from Nigeria
Kofi,
there.
thank you for your commitment.
Yes. So I just wanted to recognize the commitment, and of course to all our Canadian friends and U.S. friends. Thank you very much for attending. I just wanted to express our gratefulness. Right. I know that's not the right word, but I think you understand what I mean, right? So the fact here, going back to the common objections, folks, listen, what we're about to share with you here is very common. Very common. No time.
How
No
many
money.
times have you heard that?
I'm not the network marketing type, or it's not. And I don't believe in these things, right? I know this is MLM. Don't talk to me about it. Or I tried MLM. It didn't work. These are all the things I'm sure you heard before. It's a scam, right? The money is not real. I don't know how we were able to afford buying this place, but
so many
whatever.
people have told us that.
I guess he came from the sky, right? Well, in some way it did, but you know what I mean, right? There was some discipline that actually that was put in front of us to be able to get there. I don't know people. I don't want to bother people. You know, our Canadian friends, that's very common. I don't want to bother people, right?
I was like that at the beginning.
I was like that too. I don't want to bother my friends. I don't want them to not like me, right? So these are all the things. And I'm not saying that just Canadian. That's all over the world, right? It's just that I'm Canadian, so I can relate to that, right? That was something that I had. That was one of my situation. How much money? How much money do you make, right?
That's a big one.
This is a huge one, right? When you're just starting or you've been in it for a while, maybe you hit some peak and you did very well and then things went down a little bit. It's called the cycle of life. But sometime when you're in a down and someone says how much money you're making and you're uncomfortable because you don't want to lie, right? So there's ways to approach this. It's the way you word it, and you can really work around that. Because honestly, if I go back, what is it? We've been in Max 14 years now.
14 and a half, yeah.
14 and a half years. You know, my first 6 months, my first year, you know, even my second year, I know that Tammy and I had experience, we came to experience, but there was a time where we didn't make a lot of money. So my answer was, well, you know what? I'm working towards my first $100,000. And I wasn't lying because it actually happened. It didn't happen in that year, but I was working towards it. You understand? There's a way to work to word things without having to exaggerate or not lie, because I can't stand that. But the fact is, you don't have to fear these things. I have to think about it, right? That's a way to brush you off, right? Or my spouse will not agree. It's a possibility. But again, there's ways to work around that. So these are some of the common objections. So the fact is how to handle objections, right? What's really important is you have to relate to your prospect. And that's what I said at the beginning when we started, right? Asking for clarity. Ask them to expand on their concerns. If someone comes around and says, you know, Chris, the products are too expensive, or, you know, I've tried this kind of business before, it didn't work out for me. So I will ask them that question. Well, John, Mary, William, I appreciate how you feel. And we'll go back to, at the end. But see, I don't have to, it's so natural, right? I don't even have to look at my notes. I know how you feel because I felt the same way. But let me tell you what happened. And often what happens is that they may start expressing things and explaining things that happen to them, and they don't know of your leadership. They don't know about this opportunity. They don't know what we have. They're comparing what you're offering based on the residual of before, which could be completely irrelevant. But for them, it is real and it is now. So the fact is, the more clarity you get on their situation, and don't panic because they tell you things that you're not comfortable, because you may feel the same way. Maybe that's also the problem. And you will find that if you listen attentively to what they tell you, they will tell you all the right things. And that's why sometimes if you didn't get the experience or the results yourself, you want to acquire help from a third party who has acquired it. And that's why Tammy and I make ourselves available for our teams all the time. And many of you here on this session are leaders. And I know you do the same thing for your downline. So what they're really saying is, and that's where you may want to kind of clarify, right? What are they really saying? And you will find that the moment you start monologuing and create some clarity, these objections becomes less and less of an objection, and it's become more of an educational process, right? And the use, feel, fail, found, as I stated earlier, very, very, very important. We've been in this business, myself full-time, for well over 25 years now. I stopped counting. It's probably about 27 or 28 years now. The point here is I still use that because I remember how I felt at the beginning. You know, folks, back in 2005, 2004, 2005, 2006 was my turning point. I was huffing and puffing to try to make money in this business. It was tough. But the biggest problem, and I know that I know this if I think back, it was my mindset. It's how I was processing and how I was communicating based on my own personal belief. So the example that we see here, as I said earlier, is I understand how you feel. But before you can do that, you have to listen. Listen with 2 ears. Not an agenda that you want to sell them, but listen to what they have to say. Because I felt the same way. And because you've listened, you could relate to your past experience, or your upline can relate to their past experience, and it can bring this forward. So it creates empathy. So knowing that you went through it and you survived it, and here you are, maybe in their mind, maybe I can too. Again, it's one step closer to deal with the objections. You know, and to finish the example here is, but what I felt or what they found, what I found based on my experience today is really wonderful. Let me show you why. And this is where you may want to invite them to a presentation online. And there's so many presentations recorded, and there's so many Facebook groups in Nigeria, in Ghana, in Canada, in Guinea. There's, you know, just this weekend we did one in Congo, and they used a recording that myself and Rose Nissan from Côte d'Ivoire and Lucie Caron from Quebec, Canada, and they shared that presentation, which was 30 minutes. And then at the end, I just shared the picture, the big vision, and answered the Q&As. I didn't do the presentation anymore, right? I've trained them to use the recordings. So and that's the key. And they had a lot of people on that call. There were doctors, and the fact here is we were handling a lot of objections. And by the time we were done, I'm not kidding, it was an education process, and they were so impressed with what we have in our hands. They're actually surprised that it's available through network marketing and not in a medical realm. See, so
as Chris shares that, which is really interesting, because if people are qualified well through a presentation, through the links that we have in the prospecting process, if they're qualified well, you'll notice that they'll have less objections. If they haven't watched the whole presentation, if they haven't been to a link and learned a little bit about the products or the science, then you'll notice that you'll get a lot more negative feedback. Why? Because there's no value. They haven't had enough value for them to make an educated decision. It's because we don't get a lot of objections that get thrown our way, because we qualify people really well through the system that we teach all the time, right? So, but if, when the objections come up, I think the best way to build a relationship, let's say they say, I have no time. Tell me more about that. Because everybody's going to have a little bit of a different answer that would throw that objection out. It could be because they're making assumptions that they have to put 20, 30, 40 hours into this. So you got to listen to people to find out where they're at. And you can say something like, how many hours would you be willing to commit on a part-time business? How much income would you like to make if you would do a part-time business with whatever they say, 5 hours or whatever? So find out where they're at, because often the underlying message is never the objection. That's what I find anyways in connecting with people. And I just keep everything so down to earth and real that the conversation it flows so well. I'm not thinking about the next question I'm going to ask them. I'm just in the moment trying to understand where they're at. And if I can get that relativity, then we can move forward. Okay. And then I can share a story, or I might share somebody else's story because I don't relate to that situation, based on maybe a video I just watched. I'm going to say, hey, listen, I'd like to send you a video of somebody else who had the same challenge of not having enough time, and here's where they're at today. Right?
And, it's really interesting. And I know some of you here on the training call, you got into the accelerator program with Eric Worre. And honestly, the reason why I chose to be part of this program is because I wanted to compare what we do with what they do, right? A lot of them are claiming, and I'm sure it's real, they're making millions, and that's totally awesome, right? We've made millions in this industry also. But how do we compare with the so-called professionals out there? And it's really interesting how common everything being said is. We've listened to every single training segment. Every Monday, there's a new leader coming in talking, and it's like you're taking notes. I don't even have to think because we've been living it for so long, and it's all the same. And something that is very, very common is tell the story. Great leaders. Let me rephrase that. Great networkers are storytellers. And that's the foundation, not facts. Always remember the facts tells. And don't get me wrong, we need the facts because we need clarity, right? We need that. People need to understand that this is real. This is not some, snake oil to justify an opportunity. And everybody here on this call, what we have here is real. You've witnessed for years the lives of people you care about, love, people you didn't know before that are completely went through amazing transformation. And it could be the reason why you decide to be part of this, and now you're venturing into the opportunity. But the fact is, it's not the facts that sells, it is the stories. The story will connect with the limbic side of the brain, which is the emotion that connects to the heart. And that's where people make decisions. If it's just about facts, it does not connect. It's the neocortex, I believe. And what happens is that side does not connect with the emotion. That's the logical side. Is this logical? Does it make sense? And often people build this business with facts. And the reason why you don't move is because there's no connection with that person to help them emotionally get involved with you. And that could be the reason why you may not be growing as fast. And it could be some other things. It could be just an example. So the stories are very important to illustrate the situation. And your stories will incorporate the feel, felt, found. I know how you feel because this is what happened to me. But at that point, I know how you feel. Because I got what you told me. But here's what I found. And this is amazing. And if you're new in this business, then you need support. You need that third-party credibility. Very important. And by the way, we welcome your comments. We'll address them at the end. And I just don't want to read them now because I'll get distracted. But do feel free to comment. And if you have anything to share, trust me, we really do appreciate that. So the fact is, third-party credibility is an important aspect. In fact, I truly, truly, truly believe that Tammy and I would not be crowned diamonds if we didn't utilize third-party credibility. We were in crossroads so many times with some associates that through a third-party credibility step has completely changed. The outcome that came out of this was beyond my expectations. And all I wanted is to help me kind of unblock certain areas because I need someone that had the credibility in that particular aspect. And it's amazing how powerful this is. And I know for a fact that very few people, I'm not talking to you here, generally in life, very few people utilize third-party credibility. They try to do it on their own. Like anybody here in the group that has utilized third-party credibility, if you've used it and you've seen some results from that, give me a thumbs up. You know, when you go to the what do you call that here? The icon little thing on the bottom there. You're perfect. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 of you. Okay, so that's 4. Maybe some of you just didn't have a chance. You don't know where to find it. That's totally cool. If you're not utilizing third-party credibility, I cannot stress enough. You got to be comfortable using third-party credibility. For example, there was a training that happened on Thursday. Paul informed me on a training that was going on in Guinea with Abraham, and one of the things that I talked about is role playing with associates, and the fact is we're not physically there. And I mean, many of you in Ghana, Nigeria, in Canada, you've seen trainings that we've part of, and we've done role playing. Right? Raise your hand if you've been part of a role-playing training at one point. Right? That is the foundation of helping your team breaking the ice. If they're able to do this among each other within a group, I'm telling you, when they go back in real life, they will be prepared. I got a little itch here.
You do this with a small group of people on Zoom and within your team members, and find out where they're the most challenged on the objections that they're getting, so you can help them through the process. This is really, really important.
And very important, and this is the point. You don't want to argue or be defensive. That will kill the opportunity, right? Try to convince and don't get me wrong. I know we're in a convincing business, but what I'm talking about is to force it down people's throat, right? They just don't want to swallow it. They don't want it, and you're forcing it in. And often this is what happened in this kind of business, right? So don't argue, don't be defensive. Work with them, monologue with them. Just get a feel for where they are, and just don't try to race to the end because you have an agenda, but follow their agenda and keep adding bits and pieces until they are ready to absorb what you're trying to tell them, which could be through a third-party credibility or a follow-up call, whatever the question.
You know, once they have all their questions answered, it's easy for them to make a decision. It's just based on whether they have the money in the moment, and often they can find the money. I think people make that objection a lot of the time based on not sure if they make that investment, the fear of not getting it back. But if you can walk them through the simple steps of how to earn, then you're helping them to be more comfortable in making that decision and making an investment and moving forward. Okay, so every conversation is going to be different. Mm-hmm. So don't make any assumptions when you're contacting people back. Just have conversations and keep it so real. Okay, you don't have to exaggerate anything because they're going to know. Number one, they can read body language just as much as you can read their body language. So just be real. And if you're not making money and you're fairly new, when I started, people asked me all the time, "Hey, are you making money doing this?" And I said, I'm pretty new getting started in this, but I want to introduce you to my partner. He's been working with me. I work hand in hand with him. He's trained me, and here's what he's doing. I'd like to introduce you to him.
So the key here is ask questions and seek to understand their real concerns. That's what's important. And I think people don't dig deep enough. And be careful by digging. You don't want people to feel like you're doing a tax audit here, and then you got to be careful. You just use that kind of wisely. What I'm talking about is you got to go to the core and understand where the real concerns are and their past experiences. If you're able to pull that out, I'm not kidding, 50% of the work is done. The rest, maybe even 70 actually. It's quite high. Because once you have that, then we can start working around this and start clearing up the concerns that they have, right? And lead them to overcome their own objections. This is very important. I don't know if you're reading this correctly here, right? It's not about your agenda as to what they should do based on how you feel, based on your experience. And that's where you need to really put yourself in their shoes. Empathy. This is key. Put yourself in their shoes. How would you react knowing this? And then you will become a much, much better associate or leader or upline or prospect or leader trying to help your prospect understand the situation to help them to move forward.
Yeah, understand first before you're understood.
So the question and objections that people may have, right? This is very common. What's different about this supplement? And we'll cover that in a moment. What's different about your supplement? What's the big deal? Everybody has a holy grail and everybody says that they have the solution and everything else. Why are you so special? Okay, and we'll cover that in a moment. Don't like networking. Can't do networking. What they don't realize is they network all the time. That's why they got married. That's why they have a job. That's why, whatever the situation they may do in their lives, that got them there. There's been communication, and at one point, they've been networking, and they don't know it. How many times, and I know you heard this very often, told someone to go to a great restaurant, and because you're so passionate about the food there, people went. That's networking. I know we don't go to the movies much lately, but I know you watch it on TV and someone says, oh, you should check this series, you should check this, you should check that. And you're going to go check it out because you were passionate about it. That's what we're talking about. No time, too busy, difficult to convince people. Again, I don't like the word convincing, but the fact is it's very commonly used. I have no money to start. Okay, well, let's kind of give you some examples on how we handle this. You have anything else you want to add?
No, that's good.
Okay, so basically handling questions, dealing with, let's say, the networking of supplements is many people feel the same way. People have seen a lot of supplements and a lot of network marketing company. Most people are not interested in looking at more supplements or network marketing company. Am I right? Just go along with the objection so they can feel that you understand where they come from. So, but what people find when they get involved in Max is that we are very different. You have no idea how many people have told me that. The reason why I'm in Max is because it's different. And one of the main things is, honestly, it is very rare that you will have a network marketing company associated with this kind of science. It is not cheap for a company to bring this to fruit. It is not easy, right? So a lot of the challenge that we've been dealing through the COVID times is because we're not dealing, and no disrespect meant to other networking companies, but we're not dealing with coffees. We're not dealing with an energy drink that is just some, sugar drink to, appeal the taste. And if you're on liquid for 30 days and, everybody's going to lose weight. The reality is, are you going to drink liquid for the rest of your life? No. And that's why people end up like yo-yos, right? So the fact here is Max has some real tangible credibility behind it. So and just another thing. This afternoon, we had a call with the CEO and the event manager, or the VP, Jenny, and they gave us obviously an overview on COVID, and we couldn't go to the Diamond Retreat last year. And of course, this year it's the companies. There's nothing they can do, right? It's just the way things are. Countries have their doors closed. But what's really interesting now is there's some light at the end of the tunnel, and they show us where we're going next. I mean, what's really interesting is Tammy, just this last week, she said, Chris, check this out. And she's looking at this resort, which is
an island.
It's to die for. I mean, crazy. And lo and behold, this is exactly where we're going, right, in 2022. And there's a lot, so the point here is this is a company that works really hard for people. Not everybody knows that, but it's our job to educate. So this is what we mean where Max is different. They really, really are.
And for the supplements, when I get a lot of people that are reserved about trying another supplement, they got all kinds of stuff in their cupboards and stuff like that. And I tell them, you know what? You've tried this, you've tried that. Why don't you try this? Just give it a shot. And if it doesn't make sense to you, then it's not a product that you're going to want to try. Why don't you just give it a shot? And that's what I told people too, is I decided I'm going to try it. Instead of just listening to all this information, I'm just going to try it and see how I feel. And then I tell them my story of how I felt. So I end up getting them to at least try it. And then I always get back with a customer or an associate. Most people want to join as an associate because they want their products free. And that's one of the questions I ask them too. Once they start to feel something with it, I said, as Chris always says, you're not going to grow wings off your back in a week trying the products. But if you started to feel better, feel something, that if you stay on it longer, you're going to feel even better. And I always tell people, we call these the happy pills. We get on this product and we have great energy. And, throughout the day, we sleep like babies. And, I tell them about athletic performance and all these great things that come our way. And when you're passionate like that, you're going to get people to at least want to try it. And you kind of take them out of that mindset of the ingredients. I've even asked people, they say, well, what's in the product? And I tell them a little bit about the ribosine, but they've already seen the video. It says literally like a scrub brush of the cell. Once you start feeling good, you're just going to feel great all day long. I said, let me ask you a question. Have you ever drank Coca-Cola? And they go, yes. And I said, what's in Coca-Cola? And you get people kind of like, They don't think about it. They just drink a Coca-Cola. Or they'll go and buy a bag of chips, right? So you kind of bring them back to obviously you want to bring back the health aspect.
But be careful with that too.
People ingest things every day without questioning it. But it's funny that, you have a supplement that's healthy and they'll question the ingredients.
Yeah. So when I say be careful is that obviously people know we all have our faults. I just, ate, part of a bag of chips just before supper. And can you look at me and, are you eating chips just before supper? Yeah, So the fact here is we all do this. So you kind of don't want to rub in people's face too much.
No, but the point is
yes,
the ingredient.
You're absolutely correct. You want people to recognize that they will dissect to death what we have to offer when we know that every day they eat stuff, they don't even question it at all. But the point here that handling the questions on the product, here's what's important for you. We started doing presentations once a week live in North America for the North American market, and French also every 2 weeks on the Saturdays. And again, if you don't know when, just connect on activeteam.com. Just make sure that you go on the Max Global Diamond group on Facebook or the Facebook page called Active Team. And I always post there. Whatever, I find that I get better results posting things than sending emails. Sending emails, I get an average of 23 to 24 to 25% viewers. Because I know people see the title, they know what it is, and discard the email. I do the same thing. So, So, but the fact here is that my point in saying that is, are you attending the presentations? Because if you are, you're learning. Often when I post a comment that if you show up, you learn. If you show up with a guest, you earn while you learn. Okay, so the point here is that if you show up and you start hearing the presentation, you will get all the facts I'm about to share right now, right? So when we talked about earlier the issue about the skepticism on the product and everything else and then we start talking about the supplement like no other, right? Very important. You can expand on that.
Nobody has ribosine.
And 25 years of science. In fact, it's even past that now. 20 plus clinical studies. The product works, And if they attend a presentation, you have attended a presentation, you can testify to these things. You can add posture because you heard it over and over. You heard someone from Nigeria, from Canada, from Ghana, from Guinea, from whatever market, from Togo, or from the Philippines, from Australia, from New Zealand, whatever, right? So you heard people talk, and the stories coordinate, and they match, and they don't know each other from Adam, right? Doctor all over the world are keying in. Folks, this is a fact, right? We have doctors, they're keying in because it's common sense, right? The doctor's role, the number one thing is never harm a patient, is to do everything in their possible, based on their knowledge to help that person. That's their mandate. That's who they are. And when they see something like this, right, they're not going to oversell it, but because they understand the value, they understand the science, and often have witnessed for themselves what has happened. And the body is an incredible healing machine if you just give it what it needs. So when you have this kind of posture, because you heard it so many times all over the world, it's difficult for people to back away from that. It becomes very interesting, very curious, right?
Yeah. And people try and come back for more. I've had people that went off and they came back pretty quick because they noticed more when they went off it than they were on it, because they're just super busy people. And that's when they really noticed it.
And the biggest challenge, honestly, folks, right now, because of the COVID nightmare, is we never have enough.
There's always such a demand.
The demand is increasing, and Max is working on it. And trust me, it's getting better and better and better and better. But everything, as the cost of operation is crazy. And Max have managed to balance things out despite all the odds. So this is what's so amazing about what we offer. Renee and Conjuring. Max is open in 18 countries around the world. Everything I'm sharing with you here, it's part of the presentation. Right? Nigeria opened now up to 4 years ago. Well, we should update that a little bit. They're currently number one in the market. They're hungry, right? So Max is very different. We really are. When you really get the core, right? We're not perfect. But I can tell you that it's different and it's good. Right? We have products that people need and value, and that's a fact. We keep our business very, very, very simple. We provide training to help you be successful. Tonight, this is an example. People are making money. Many are making millions. Folks, this is a fact. I pay my taxes like many others, and folks, trust me, government should be happy to have me in their country. Just teasing here. We have only just begun, and we keep growing and evolving. And this is what's really, really interesting, right? So you need to see it for yourself. You see what's going on here? When you provide this kind of information with a certain assertiveness, but with clarity and knowing that what you're talking about, based on what we just shared here, people will start gravitating towards you, because it's the fear of loss. What if I miss out something because I really need something for myself right now? And that's when you invite them to a business opportunity meeting, BOM, or inviting for a third-party credibility.
No, you're just hitting the table.
Oh, I'm hitting the table. Okay. Yeah. So what's important here is handling questions. No time, difficult to convince people. Teach them to get started right. And Tammy and I are revising a lot of our trainings. And I'm telling you, folks, if you just utilize these things, and you start transcending this to your downline, it will make a difference. Help them getting started right, and how to make a list. Very important. Very, very important. People can think of easily of 2,000 names by the age of 20 years old. So 200, it's not a big deal. You don't remember their last name, you don't know where they live, you don't have their emails. Folks, you go to Facebook and just search the name, and most of them, people are probably there, and there's different other things that you can utilize also, right? Teach them how to talk to people using the getting started, inviting and following up. Next week, actually, what Tammy and I want to do is we want to handle some real case tangible objections. We'll have a few leaders with us, and we're going to give you a live example of how we handle it, how some leaders are handling it, so you can have a live kind of practice on actually handling objections. Tammy and I used to do handling objections for years, even in our previous company. I remember handling objections was my favorite topic, and it still is. It's just ironic that we haven't done it for so long, and that's why this evening we decided to do this. It's so important. So the key is that what we call the success cycle. If you go to activeteamtraining.com, you will see the success cycle, and we're updating these trainings. Tammy just updated building your list. I did the attitude, and there's a couple more, and we have the follow-up that's coming up, and we're updating this because also with the new times, we want to share with you what we do. Tammy and I just today invested quite a few thousands of dollars to learn from YouTube ads, right? How to campaign on YouTube and be very effective. Yeah. And that is not cheap. I'm being very modest when I say a few thousands of dollars. But the point I'm trying to tell you is once we get the information, guess what? We transcend it. Because we don't want to keep this to ourselves. We want to share this with our team so our team can duplicate. Because if your income grows, everybody's income grows. You understand? And this is how a leader thinks. This is how we suggest for you to move forward. Invest in yourself and then teach down your organization, right? So at the end of the day, is you ask, is this something that you can do?
Yeah, after you kind of give them the sheet, the 5 steps, I use this very often, all the time actually, in every single Zoom follow-up, because I like to walk them through the simplicity of how they can earn some money. And that's really what they want to know. If they're going to make an investment of finances and an investment of time, you want to make sure that you keep it simple for them and show them how they can get that money back as quick as possible. Okay, that's what they want to hear. Because if they put it on their credit card, they need to pay their credit card. So your goal is to help them do these steps as quick as possible to engage them to make a decision to say yes.
So you see the example here of handling the question, and at the end, is it something that you can do? What you're doing is that you're giving him the know-how, you're giving him the steps, you're giving him a map, you're giving him the direction. So they have a clear understanding, oh yeah, I know how to get from point A to point B now. So making the decision on getting started, it's not as hard as it was before we spoke. So handling objection, it's also giving them some direction, right? So what happens here?
Well, let me handle this one.
Yeah, sure.
I get this a lot. Anybody get that one where people don't have money? Okay, this is a big one. Yeah. And I've had many people, doesn't matter what country it is, that have said that to me. And sometimes, when you create enough value, they'll find a way to come up with the money. We were literally broke and we found a way. And today our life has transformed. I'm going to tell that story to people, okay, when I'm talking to them. But I'm going to also say if they really don't have or can't find the resources, I'm going to say, do you know anybody that could benefit from some of these products? And, a lot of them are going to say yes. Do you know anybody who's looking to make some extra money? Start writing those names down because we can talk to them. We can send them links to have a look at it. If they want to try the product and buy it, then what you can do is they can buy the product through your sign-up account. Okay, so that qualifies you. If they order the product every month, that qualifies you every single month until you can start earning some income to be able to consume it for yourself. I've helped many people get started this way.
Okay, so that is just an example that applies in every market around the world. Teach them how to find customers.
Yep.
And find 2 customers or more.
Yep.
And then use the income produced by having these customers to register.
They can do it that way too. Yeah.
Right? So the fact here is that if they find the customers and you gather the income, you can use their money to use it to get started. Right? So again, these are just some examples. You can work with your upline. You're committed. You may want to do it in consignment. There's so many things that we can do here. Right? I know that face-to-face exchanging products, it's not as easy as it was in 2019. But again, we just need to work together and figure out things. But it's just an example where if someone absolutely has no income, folks, it's not an excuse. You can find the money. Obviously, that's for me, it's just another brush off just because you don't want to bother. And that's fine. We'll go to
This is
someone
when
else.
you know if they're hungry enough.
That's right.
And they have a drive.
Yeah.
Because if they're not going to do it, obviously they're not hungry enough to change their situation, right?
Yeah.
So you have to move on.
Yeah. And I kind of found that guy and I said, you know what? This guy has that look. That look that I remember when someone says, nope, not interested. Right? But folks, listen, that's okay. That's okay. And the fact is, even if someone says no, I mean, I remember in some cases we ended up being great friends and it was a great conversation. I'm telling you. So ask them, is it a no for now? Right? And it's amazing how this could lead to something else. Right? Stay in contact with these guys. Make sure, do you mind if we're friends on Facebook? And I'd love to show you what people are doing, because often you might have perceived that they're not saying yes because there's something they were not sold on. They were not sold on the product. They're not sold on the opportunity. They don't believe that they can really make money. And it's there. So they might be willing to connect with you to follow to see if it's real by showing what's going on your environment, on your page. And you know what I mean? That's what I mean by your environment. So stay connected with them. Giving information, share stories. And I'm not saying to drill them and shove things down their throat. Is keep the door open, right? And don't make it all about Max. Don't make it all about Max, right? Just kind of change the conversation. And telling you stories is just amazing. And constantly track and the information. Ask if they would want to become a customer. That's my default. Most people start as a customer, and if they're open as a customer, maybe they're going to want to be associates. For me, it's a no, 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 no. I don't start that way. Never. I don't think I'd be where I am. We would be today if I think that way. But if folks want to do it that way, that's fine. I'm okay with that. I'm not going to force it. It's just not how I work. It's not how I teach. But it doesn't mean I'm not going to get customers. I still have customers for years. Yeah. And every month I get my notification. Oh, they bought the customer on that date of the month. Oh, I got another one. Right? So that's my default. And some choose to be. And I love my customers because it adds on to the volume. It adds on to my income. Right? So I respect that. So this is the way I work. And I suggest that you do the same if you want to build a business. But if you really want to make a difference in people's lives and the products are going to be good for them, you just want to have a customer base, listen, this is awesome. And I'm not saying this is not a good thing. I'm a millionaire producer. That's what I do. So I speak in such. So just keep in mind that that's the way I work at it. But folks, there's many different ways to really, take the direction that you want to take that you see feasible for you. But what's important here is ask for referrals. Maybe they're not interested for them, but they see the value. Maybe to become a customer, and maybe someone else may want to be an associate because you just told them that they need an income and you see something that could be valuable for them, right? So in closing, folks, the summary here is objections will always be encountered. Oh. And don't see that as a problem. And don't fear it. It's part of the process. Remember that you may have had an objection before. Many of you, I've had objections too. I remember, right? My parents all respect to them, they were in Amway, and they crashed and burned in doing this. Now I know why. In fact, I very much know why. But at the time, I did not know. But that was my experience. And I'm not putting down this company because I think it's a wonderful company. It's just not my company of choice. But the fact here is I had a bad blueprint because I saw what happened. Also, I've never forgotten, I've shared that story many, many times where I remember my father asked me to invite my friends and tell their parents to come over. I wasn't trained. This was my first experience. So they all came over for supper. They were happy. And holding behold, my father turned around, pulled the board, and man, I mean, it was a mess the day after. My friends were like, I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do that again, ever. Right? But again, it's just because I was not trained. I was, and often this is kind of how people were taught, and their belief is still there. So today, network marketing, honestly, folks, it's the way of the future. I truly, truly, truly believe it. Especially today. We didn't know 2020 would be so dramatic. And I'm telling you, it's quite significant. So the practice is key here, right? It's very important. And if you don't talk to people, you don't practice, right? Your job is to help people prospect. Is to help your prospect to overcome their limiting beliefs when it comes to this opportunity, when it comes to the industry, when it comes to themselves. And often when you're new, as Tammy stated at the beginning of the call, I remember when we first met, in this industry, we used to cross path and we had the same upline. And we used to go there every day. Every day I was going and I was bringing my prospects there. And, that's the 80s, the way we were doing business, right? And we were doing the third-party validation and everything else. And that's the only way I knew how to build my business. So even today, I shared earlier, that third-party credibility was instrumental to have had the growth that we've had. True. So it's always been a very instrumental part of my business. And that's why I'm so adamant about you utilizing third-party credibility.
And right? Your prospects need to know that too. It's about leveraging. That's another thing. In their head, they're thinking, I've got all this stuff on my plate. Where am I going to find the time to learn all this stuff, right? So it's so important to keep everything so simple and use and leverage tools and third-party validation. And in that process, you're going to learn a lot about how things are handled by the leaders. And then it becomes an easier process for you. And another thing, if I can leave you with this, is don't take anything personal. Nothing is personal to you. Okay, so don't feel like you're not doing something right. Don't take it personal. It's their stuff, and if they're not open, that's perfectly fine. And change the conversation so you can continue a relationship. Because the last thing you want is to get off a call or a Zoom and for that person to feel uncomfortable and for you to have that uncomfortable feeling. Friends first. Okay, and when you build that relationship in that way, then I don't see objections. I just see conversation.
True.
It's that simple. And I think the way you see it is what you're going to get. Mm-hmm. And if you are a person that feels you don't have time or feels that the product's too expensive, I truly believe in energy, matching energy, and we tend to attract into our lives a lot of our own beliefs. So work on that for yourself and even write some key things of what you're looking for to attract into your life. You're looking for people who are open. You're looking for people who are willing to invest in their health.
I totally agree. So here's the resources, folks. Max.com is your website. I don't recommend to send prospects to the max.com too quickly. It's overwhelming. It's like a dictionary of information. People will get lost in there. The Max back office, your virtual office, you need to visit this daily. You need to be familiar with what's going on. The active team group, we have document, presentations, trainings. It's all there. If you find something that's not up to date, just let me know. We'll make the modifications. If you go to activeteamtraining.com, as I stated earlier, that's a Success Cycle series. And if you want to see every training that we've ever posted over the years, if you go to YouTube, there's a channel, you look for Active Team Training. If you look for that, and if you don't mind, just subscribe and give it. If you like a video, just comment on it, click like, and it helps us kind of showing what kind of content people appreciate and people want, right? So that's very, very important here. And I wanted to finish as we did the last slide here. What I wanted to do here is just kind of a quick summary on some of the comments that were posted, because I know that the call is going just a little over here. I know that Abraham, you were mentioning here that, hold on, let me go back to speaker view here.
I think we're getting a suntan with the light.
Yeah, no, it's the sun. It's the sun. The Florida sun. Yeah, so I mean that experience, and I know you were talking about when I was talking about the third-party credibility, role playing, the role playing aspect, and this I really like your comment there. You're absolutely correct, and I'm glad that you felt. I'm telling you, this is the key. This is the key. This is what we did in Ghana when we first started. This is what we did in Nigeria when we first started, and it's still happening still today. This is what we did in all across Canada, over the years as we were training. And the people that are receptive have evolved. They understood. They understand the process. Mireille, where two or more gather. Yeah, that's correct. It's there's there's a synergy, there's energy that comes from that. And I totally agree.
And you know what it does too? It shows them that you're a team, and that they're not alone. They need to know that we've got their back. There's people behind them. That's why that third party brings a lot of validation there too.
Yeah, and I like Kofi, what you mentioned. Is this something that you can do? You put them back into their plate for them to absorb. Can I handle that? And that's correct. It's very powerful. Yes, money is often the objection, and I agree. Money it has such a negative blueprint in everybody's mind because it's associated to so much negativity. But unfortunately, it's what we work with in our society to survive and thrive. So the fact is, there's no point of fighting it. It's work with it, because if money makes you feel uncomfortable or you have negative association to it, I tell you, you won't have it. This is something I had to work on. I am not kidding. I really, really had to work on. I was raised where I'm not made with money. It's we're made for the little bread. I mean, I was raised that way. I remember the words still as clear as day, right? So I had to work on that. So the fact is, very, very important. Luz, okay, thank you. Okay, wonderful. Thank you very much, Luz, for your feedback. Dr. Bailey, very practical suggestions. Thank you. Okay, this is wonderful. Great. Okay, thank you, Paul. Okay, thank you, Bill. Mary Paul, thank you. This was so interesting. Okay. That's Abraham. Thank you, Abraham. That's wonderful. Okay, wonderful. So thank you, guys. Really appreciate the feedback here. And I know we're a little bit over, so I'm just going to end the call on this note here, guys. Next week, we're going to be practicing objection, right? Handling objection. I'm going to be reaching out to some of you that would like to partner with us, and we're going to be doing some role playing, okay? Because we just want to get a feel for the reality. Right now, we talk about the theory, our experience, and everything else. But I think it's important that you actually see it in hands-on.
The real thing. Yeah.
Okay? So listen, everybody, thank you so much for attending. We really, really appreciate you. And we hope that this training has helped everybody there. Thank you so much.
Have an awesome week. Make sure you get registered for the most powerful women in network marketing. So it's MPW private / Oh, wait.
Okay, that's not going to work.
Anybody have that to put in the chat right away?
You know what, Tammy?
/Max.
We're going to make it available. Okay,
yes.
We'll make it available.
We're putting it out on all the platforms anyways. You've
Yes.
already heard it from the leadership, but show up and get some of this training in. It's free. It's 3 days. And even if you can't commit for the full process, you can show up to the time commitment that you can do. So you're going to get lots of great stuff from that.
Wonderful. Well, we're going to have yourself a great evening. We look forward to share with you on next Monday. In the meantime, be safe. Talk to you soon. Bye for now.
Bye, guys. Ladies.